We've flown to Tuddenham, and we're going to talk about AI adoption and some of the problems with AI adoption right now in the world. The whole AI conversation and the dynamic around it took us a step back because all of a sudden, instead of talking about even outputs, now we start talking about inputs again, and we're like, okay, what do we do with AI?
Graph is this very nimble data structure that enables us to go integrate data coming from so many different sources. Like add that knowledge layer on top of it, then you get something really rich and understandable.
We've always said that data teams should be a lot closer to the business and focus on business outcomes. How is that different?
It isn't different. I'm just living it. I'm just absorbing it. Like there's so much. Just looking at this whole view of the world like this from where I am above. Like I got the whole world in front of me. Like it's ridiculous. I never had the passion for the machine learning thing, even though that was the right thing to go do. I'm sure I could have made an amazing career for that, but that wasn't my passion. I wasn't determined to go do that. So we need to also be careful not to just, everybody's like, oh, we need to do something with AI. It's like, yeah, you do need to do something with AI, but the way you're going to do something with AI is by doing something with solving that work problem you're trying to go do.
All right, so first of all, Juan, do you want to quickly introduce yourself just to those who don't know you?
Yeah, so I'm the principal data strategist at ServiceNow, joining through the acquisition of Data.World, which were a catalog and governance company that ServiceNow acquired almost a year ago. And I've been working in this whole data space for a long time, and in particular, knowledge graphs, semantics, ontologies. Excited that more and more people are talking about it because of AI, and hopefully more than talk, they're doing it. And as I said, also learning from the history about it. So don't reinvent the wheel.
So you've been doing that for over 20 years now, right?
Yeah, I got first exposed and started like in 2005, actually. Still was an undergraduate in research, but that was very quickly became kind of my research interest, and I started my PhD in 2008 on the topic. This was all about how to integrate and combine relational databases with all of this semantic web technologies. I mean, knowledge graphs as a term was coined by Google in 2012, 2013 probably. So doing this stuff before was even called knowledge graphs.
And a lot of people in the industry right now, they talk about semantic layer, they talk about semantics, they talk about taxonomies. Sometimes interchangeably, they use these terms, and people, use these words to describe different things. So can you please just help people understand what does it actually mean?
Yeah, so let's start first with kind of a little bit of a framework to think about it. So let's go use these two terms, which is data and what I call knowledge. So if you look at it, for example, was either a database or a table. The stuff that's inside that table, that is data. The stuff outside that table, I'm going to call that knowledge.
Oh, I
So
love
then,
that.
so then everything.
I
So
love that.
part of the knowledge is the table name, the column name, right? The data type. That's already knowledge. I mean, we also use that as metadata, but let's think about that as that framework. So let's go start understanding more of the knowledge side. Well, the first thing you want to be able to do is like, what are the words that we use? Let's go track of all those words and what does these words mean and get the definitions. And that's what we call business glossaries. And that these terms themselves have different relationships between them. I think there's some sort of hierarchical relationships, and that's kind of where we enter where a taxonomy is. You think about like regions and countries and stuff like that can have a taxonomy, which, by the way, we actually store that in data too, because if you look at that, if you look at your effect and dimension table, if you have a dimension table about regions, right, there's a taxonomy right there. By the way, it's super cool look on the side.
Yeah, very
Uh,
slick.
then every time you start adding more relationship between them, you start kind of qualifying these relationships that you say, for example, orders and customers and products and order lines. Well, an order is placed by a customer and so forth. And now you start basically building out this conceptual data model, which again, the conceptual data model, ontology, semantic layers, I'm kind of using this interchangeably. But then you actually start adding more meaning to it. And then this more meaning is by means of constraints or rules. You can say that, well, a customer can purchase multiple orders, but an order is only purchased by one customer. An order can be shipped only to one address. So those are types of constraints. And then you could say, well, what do we mean by customer? Well, a customer is anybody who has purchased an order in the last 30 days. Like that's already starting to add more definitions to these things. So that's to the point we get to ontologies. And when you start taking that conceptual model, adding more of these rules, constraints to that, and I think what's important also about ontology is that you make it machine readable. It's something that's executable. It's code, not just a pretty picture, just not just an image that you have in there. Now this all gets into a knowledge graph is that you take the ontology and you connect it to the data. So a knowledge graph is ontology plus the data. So if you're only doing the data stuff, you're not really adding the knowledge part into it. Maybe you're just doing graphs. Right? And the other reason why graphs is really important and really cool, I think, is it's a very nimble data structure because you can take, when you do NLP, you do entity extraction, relationship extraction from text, that's turning things into triples into a graph. And then if you could take tree style data, which is XML and JSON and YAML, all that stuff, they can only represent it as a graph. And you take relational data represented as a graph. So a graph is this very nimble data structure that enables us to go integrate data coming from so many different sources. Like add that knowledge layer on top of it, then you get something really rich and understandable.
Amazing. I love that. So what do you do right now in ServiceNow? What are you working on? What are you busy with?
Yeah, so what keeps me busy and keeps me up at night is strategic perspective is I have the opportunity to kind of bridge these two different worlds. And I'm coming from the data analytics world. And what we realize, what I've also learned is I've been bursting into my own bubble and realized, well, there's a world way outside of data analytics, and that's actually the operational world, where IT gets done, HR gets done, customer service gets done, right? Your risk and security gets done. And these two worlds, honestly, have never have been connected just by, okay, here's my data, go do something with my analytics. Go do something with it, go do some analytics. Because we need to be data driven, right? But there's always lacked, I think, a feedback loop on how you take analytics and take all these insights and drive action to them. And I think that's why we see kind of the data world always complaining that, hey, we can't show our value. It's hard to show value and so forth. Well, I think but when we have the opportunity now, or at least I'm in a position right now to take these two different kind of communities, two different personas who work at the same company, and let's sit at the same table and let's go talk together. Because on one side, you think data is the center of your world, which is data is really important. Of course, now content is important, but that's not the center. The center of the world is the work that needs to get done for the company. And so how do we shift what I call from this data center of the world approach to more of a work at the center?
So how is that different than, I mean, we've always said, but for a long time, like we've been hammering on the idea that data teams should be a lot closer to the business. They should be closer to the product. They should understand business context and focus on business outcomes. How is that different?
It isn't. It isn't different. It's exactly that, except that at least personally for me, I'm in a position, in a place, an organization that actually does both of those.
Yeah.
So we do operational, and we are now ServiceNow is now entering the data analytics space, and and I think the thing that we need to do or the mind shares. So how do we get data people to understand more about what's happening inside the operational world, and vice versa? And I think this actually has to be kind of what I'm seeing now is more education on like the different use cases. So talk about like, okay, what are the problems in IT? What are the problems in HR? What are the problems in customer service and stuff that require data? And then how do we map out that full loop? And I think, man, that's the stuff that I'm working on.
That's amazing. And how is AI impacting all of this?
So AI is a means to do work. So if I go back to like this analogy of like the data's at the center today, this is what we've always been thinking about. Like data's the new oil, and we're like so the analytics team think that they're at the center of the world. And what we need to go do is really have this, I call this like, there's a Copernican shift that needs to happen, which is before Copernicus, we thought the Earth was the center of the world, and then we shifted this and we realized, no, we're not saying the Earth isn't important, but the sun is the center of the world and the Earth orbits around that. So I think that's the first realization that we need to kind of acknowledge is that, look, data is not the center. It's just a means to an end. The same thing, why do we do data? Why do we do context? Why do we do insight, governance, all this stuff? It's just to get work done. So then AI does it where we always talk about AI needs data, AI needs context, or all that stuff. We need to govern AI. Again, we do that because AI is a way of how we're going to go do work. So when I talk about work at the center, like AI is just an enabler to getting that work done. So we need to also be careful not to just, everybody's like, oh, we need to do something with AI. It's like, yeah, you do need to do something with AI, but the way you're going to do something with AI is by doing something with solving that work problem you're trying to go do. Make it more efficient, make it more faster, right? More productive, whatever. And I think that should be the focus of what AI is. And just remember that you want to do the amount of data, the amount of context, the amount of governance, the amount of insights sufficient enough to get that work done. And then you start iterating, creating that kind of that flywheel around that. Otherwise, don't boil the ocean, or you're just going to start doing AI for the sake of doing AI, but without thinking about what is the work you're trying to go accomplish.
Yeah, and I think that this is part of the problem that I'm seeing today, at least in the data industry and in general, not just in the data industry, in the tech industry, is that a lot of companies, they want to do AI for the sake of doing AI. And I'm going to say what I'm about to say now with a lot of empathy, because I know that there's a lot of pressure and there's hype and people are held accountable for those things. But I remember I had an engineering director at Meta who used to say that some of his teams, they're like people going around with hammers looking for nails because they were so good at doing one very specific thing. So they just go around and look for opportunities to do that. And I think that with AI, the dynamic is kind of like that, where people are going around saying, okay, what can we do with AI? And my mental model of how you talk about the work, there are basically three levels you can think about your work. You can talk about the inputs, which is like I use Spark, I use Scala, I use Python, or I use AI for that matter. You can talk about the outputs, which is I build dashboard, I build a data set, or I build a conversational interface or chatbot. And you can talk about the outcomes, which is I'm saving the business this amount of money by reducing churn or by increasing the number of active users or by doing this. And I think that for a very long time, a lot of data teams were stuck at the output phase, right? Some of them were at the input phase where they're like, you talk to them and you're like, what do you do? And they say, I migrate everything from SQL Server to Databricks, which is okay, but that's cute. But what is going to be different as a result of doing that? So there are a lot of teams like that. But then many teams were talking about what they build, the outputs, and the best teams would talk about their outcomes and what they actually drive for the business, and they had the business knowledge and context and understanding. And I think that in a way, the whole AI conversation and the dynamic around it took us a step back, because all of a sudden, instead of talking about even outputs, now we start talking about inputs again, and we're like, okay, what do we do with AI? Do you agree with
Yeah,
that?
that's a great framework. Think about it. Like we're repeating the cycle. I mean, naturally, history repeats itself, so we're seeing this whole cycle again. Yeah, I think because we're being quote unquote forced by the higher ups to go do something with AI. Again, it sounds so simple to go break the cycle, and I honestly don't know why it can't be as simple as if AI is a goal, perfect. What's the next goal after AI?
Yeah.
And then focus on that goal, and then use AI to go solve that other problem too. Solve two problems with the same. We kill two birds with the same stone. So again, we need to improve customer satisfaction because it's been going down. That's what people. Okay, so let's find the ways to go improve customer satisfaction. Which, by the way, you're going to use AI for. Okay, there we go. I mean,
Look at this. Can you see this place down here? Looks like an oasis, right?
there was like a little lake and sort of a little pond.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
By the way, this is such a beautiful view right now. Amazing. Can't believe up here.
So Juan and I flown to Tuddenham. Those who follow the series know that we've been here in a previous episode with Simon Landsman. Tuddenham is a small boutique hotel in Suffolk, northeast of London. It's one of my favorite spots and I come here often. This place offers a unique combination of countryside vibes, really good food with locally sourced ingredients, and amazing chefs who know what to do with them, and it's very quiet and beautiful. They have small hobbit-like cabins that are very cozy, and it's definitely worth staying here. Juan and I met several times before, and I could see his massive passion for aviation and flying every time we met. So during our break, I started planting the idea of him taking an introductory flight back at Denham and holding the controls of a helicopter for the first time in his life. Stick around till the end of this episode if you want to see what happened. Okay, so the clutch light is out. We're still waiting for these two to get in green. What did you think of the place?
This was fantastic. I love that you have this really fantastic place to go eat. It's very beautiful in the middle of nowhere. And you can get here fairly quickly.
Yeah, and in style.
Yes.
We're gonna fly back to Denham now, and we're good to go. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so we look straight ahead. Where's the collective? Do you feel like we're getting lighter and lighter? We try to counteract what the helicopter is doing.
A little
get
bit
up
of
in the
butterfly in here still.
Yeah,
Oh, that's,
let's look around. See the hobbit houses. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do this.
So basically going to use this field as my runway. All right, so how are you feeling right now, by the way?
I'm still kind of. I won't really understand my feeling till probably tonight or tomorrow, I think, because it's like I'm just living it. I'm just absorbing it. Like there's so much just looking at this whole view of the world like this from where I am above. Like because I fly a lot and I see this, but only when I'm taking off for the first 30 seconds and I'm one little window. Right here, I got the whole world in front of me. Like it's ridiculous.
What did you imagine it would be like?
I knew it was going to be freaking awesome, that's for sure, but I just didn't know how it was going to be. I actually, like, pretty interesting how I'm trying to kind of control what I'm thinking, what I'm saying, what I'm seeing, because,
Look at this place, for example. This farm down here.
yeah, it's all very, very green.
So it's interesting, right? You started your career in academia, but then you went into startups, and now you're in a big company. ServiceNow is a pretty big company, right?
Yeah.
How do you see this journey, and how do you feel about working for such a big company after having worked in much smaller environment for your entire career? How do you see that?
Well, I think, first of all, it's a good reminder that the journeys are never the straight line.
Yeah.
That's one thing for sure. Honestly, for me, it's been a combination of having a passion and a determination. So I found this passion early on about semantics, and that's something that I decided to do my undergraduate research in it. That was the reason why I had another startup like around 2006 and stuff, and I decided to quit that so I can pursue my PhD to go work on this. With my PhD advisor, he said like, okay, if this semantic stuff is actually going to be big and stuff, well, people need to be able to connect their semantics to their databases. So we have technology for that. Let's start a company of that because we really thought that that's what's going to happen. And we did that. We're still 10 years too early, but like let's keep working on it, right? Then I met the folks at Data.World. That was my previous company, Capsenta, which is a company I started for my PhD. And then the folks from Data.World were all finding more determined and passionate people aligned. We ended up working together, acquired my company, and then we're still there, right? We were like the first one and only for a long time data catalog saying we're on knowledge graph and explaining why. And so many people didn't understand it. Now everybody is now a knowledge graph. And I'm like, right? The audience can look up. They can come to their own conclusions and look at history. But anyways, the facts are out there. So then now everybody's talking about knowledge graphs. I'm like, okay, good. This is great. For a long time, I thought many people told me that I was wasting my time. I thought about it too sometimes, but especially like even my PhD, like why would I be doing that? You have to be doing some machine learning stuff. I never got passionate. I never had the passion for the machine learning thing, even though that was the right thing to go do. I'm sure I could have made an amazing career for that, but that wasn't my passion. I wasn't determined to go do that. And yeah, that's how I think. So for me, it's like it's been the passion, determination that I found it, and part of it is luck because somebody introduced me to this area, and that was the luck part. But then keep working on it, the determination. That's the grit. That's the working hard. And being there, and then when everybody said no and ignored you, and we were in the small room with a small amount of people because all the cool people were somewhere else, I was still determined to be stuff. And now people are coming to this room, which is really cool.
And how do you feel about working for a big company now?
The honest, no BS. I'm sure people will is that true or not? I genuinely think I really enjoyed this, but also take it kind of where I'm coming from is like I've never worked for a big company before. The biggest company I worked for was Internet World, which was probably like 150 people. So this for me is like a brand new opportunity. With my kind of scientific hat on, I'm like, oh, this is an opportunity to observe, learn, observe, and kind of come up with my theories. My next theories of what's going to happen. And then also, I'm super fascinated with the opportunity I have of like being able to connect with so many amazing people internally, really smart people, and also connect with the amazing customers that we have. This what is it, 85% of the Fortune 500 are ServiceNow customers. So I have that huge opportunity. So and what I've been learning over the last couple 5, 6, 7 years is like this gap between this data at the center, and now I'm realizing, oh, we need to fill this gap. I'm like, oh, I'm actually in a place, in a position, and the support to be able to fill out to bridge that gap. And I think to tie that with my passion about knowledge and semantics, while AI is the driving function, and everybody now knows that semantics and knowledge and context is needed for AI. So it's like all of this stuff is kind of aligning at the same time right now, and I'm like, wow. And then I'm here chatting with you about this stuff in the air. Like, it's freaking ridiculous.
Staying above the noise levels and giving you a top-down view of the data industry.
It's just, exactly.
Look at this page, by the way. This is insane. I'll show you. So I think one thing that is very interesting is that people that don't have a mission in life, for them, working for a big company is just a job, right? It's just, it's a place you go to at 9 a.m. and you leave at 5 p.m. And that's the sort of structure in which you operate. But then for people who've got a mission in life and they've got something that they're trying to achieve, for them, a big company like that is not a company, it's not a workplace, it's a platform. It's a platform they can use to achieve their goals. And I think because what you're doing is a continuation of what you've been doing for the past 20 plus years, right? Like from your research to your startups and all of that. Essentially, now what you're getting is the best platform you can to achieve your mission and your vision in life, right?
I agree. And honestly, it's like when I look at what ServiceNow has been doing, how they've been evolving, I'm realizing, wow, this is like the part that I didn't even know that I needed that can actually kind of like, oh, like my personal vision in life, like what I think organization needs to go do, like, oh, this is the place that can actually make it happen.
Yeah.
And let's go do it because I'm passionate about this vision. I want to go do, and it happens to me. This is a place that's actually like we have this alignment on that. So that's the luck part. There's the great part, where you got to go work, go execute.
Yeah, you still have to work and it's still a job, but it's more than a job, right? It's a thing that enables you achieve something that's bigger than what it is and it aligns with your passion in life. And I think it's amazing. And a lot of people, they don't have this passion in life. They don't have a mission. They don't have something that they care about. So they're just mercenaries, right? They just move from one place to another, do work, and then change. And I think that's a great way of looking at it.
But I also want to acknowledge that people who just have a job because they need the job and do it for. There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. And we hope because hopefully they actually have passions outside of that. They're able to accomplish that. And their 9 to 5 job is what enables them to do their passions outside life. But at the end of the day, there's like, yeah, I think having the passion that's we are a very lucky position to be able to kind of have these passions and we should yeah, acknowledge it and appreciate that. And also help others too, who are like, you may feel stuck that you're like, hey, they just need a little bit of a nudge so we can kind of get them over the hump so they can kind of be part of enjoy their passion. I mean, I think like stuff that you're doing, let's invite people, let's connect with people, let's give them, try to do this also with with our podcast. Let's connect with people who are like, hey, uh, let's give them the platform so people get to know them and they can realize, oh, wait, I can do this too.
Yeah. Empowering people, right?
Yeah, that's a leadership, which leadership is not just you're not a leader just because you're a manager. Like, this is leadership across the board.
Managers sign off your PTO requests, time off requests, and leaders show you a path to achieve your goals.
Yep, I like that. It's true.
A lot of clients and a lot of companies I talk to, they ask me about knowledge graphs and context engineering and that sort of stuff. And I think that there's a lot of confusion. Who needs that? How do you need that? How do you build that? How to approach that? So I guess the question for you is, first of all, how can I learn more? Like, what's the best way to learn more about these things? And secondly, who needs it and what's the best course of action for them to achieve that?
All right, so let's start with the second one. So the pattern is kind of the same for any type of, let's call it, data work that's happening. Like, first of all, like, don't boil the ocean, right? and I think also is people should have is a methodology. And I think this is something that lacks a lot is that people just do the work without actually understanding what are the patterns, what are the repeatable patterns, and how like it starts. We talk about it, think big and start small, but like how do you actually do that? So that's the topic of methodology. The third, I think, right now, if you are genuinely wanting to go do anything with AI, with large language models that need to understand the context of your business, you need to start investing in knowledge and semantics. Now, this can show up in different ways. Doesn't have to be all the way inside of a knowledge graph with RDF and OWL standards. No, there's a progression around this stuff. So it's something another thing to kind of understand that you don't just get to the you don't start flying immediately. Pun intended or no pun intended. Uh, so
Love that.
so okay. So what I tell people to go start off with is surprise, surprise. What is the problem you're trying to go solve? Right? What are the questions that people are trying to answer today that they probably either can answer today, but they're still a pain in answering that question, or they can't answer it today? And then why is that a problem? So we want to be able to kind of prioritize. So what is that a problem, and what is the pain around that today? How are they answering that today? So let's all do this. Try to gather that, and literally start with one question. One question, super simple. An example I always give is, what is the net sale of all orders by regions? You take that one question, and what happens is, oh, that's really cool. We're flying underneath the plane. But we're above the noise, but still below something. So, all right, you take that one question, and now let's understand, why is this so important? Well, because this is how we drive our sales. All the directors of sales need to get the stuff, and right now everybody's getting this from so many different sources, and the numbers are completely different. And we want to go AI to go blah, and we've made decisions like we lost so much money because we made it anyway. So you understand why this is a pain, and then you figure out how they're solving it today and what are the processes. So they're separated by two parts. Like, what is the social side and what is the technical side? On the social side, let's start figuring out what this means. Okay, what is an order? What do you mean by an order? Oh, was an order when it was shipped? Was an order when it was paid by? Like, okay, what do you mean by regions? Which regions are they? Okay, there's West region. Okay, there's all these states. Is Texas part of West or not? Because that's going to change a lot of the things. It's purchased by. Okay, so a customer purchased a product, but the customer lives in New York but sent it to California, which is the region. So just by having these conversations, you get to understand the different meaning, the semantics of this stuff. And that's just on the social side. And by the way, we're only talking about that one question, right? Super simple question. Well, super simple question, but you start understanding and unpacking it so much more. You figure out, you think about the domain model. You go, oh, there's orders, there's a customer, there's a region, and so forth. And then you go to the technical side, and you're like, okay, where does this data from orders? Well, for this report, I'm using this table. This other report, I'm using this other table, and I'm using this other database, and then you start mapping this out. So just doing that first phase, what I call that knowledge capture phase, you just start kind of understanding the state of the world with scope down to that one question. And then from there, you start determining, okay, what does this stuff really mean? And which is the definition I'm going to go use? Which is the one I'm going to care about? Then you realize, oh, wait, this is more for the marketing version, so we're going to use the marketing definition. So you do all that knowledge capture and trying to figure that out. This is where you want to start governing it. This have a catalog to figure out what is the data you have, what is the glossaries of the stuff you meant. This is how it was governed. That's the first step. That's what I call that knowledge capture step. And then from there, you're going to go implement that. And you're going to implement that knowledge. And then for some cases, you're going to go say, oh, I'm going to implement this now. And the semantic layer, these BI semantic layers, right? The OSI is doing these things. Like, okay, that may be one way of implementing that. Maybe depending on your use case, you may need a graph to go, okay, I'm going to implement this in RDF, whatever it is. So that's now the implementation phase. But that implementation is leveraging that same type of knowledge that was defined. What you want to go do is, the whole notion of it is define once and kind of reuse over and over again. And then once you implement it, then you go into some testing phase. And let's put it out in front of the users, right? Is this what they wanted? How is this how they're actually going to do their work? Is this meaning where their work is? Because if somebody asking the question, but they're like swivel chairing, then like, well, you're not really helping them fix the problem, because the result of that analysis that you're doing should probably have an action or workflow that ties it back to their CRM system that does something. Like that is actually driving insights to the action that needs to happen. So be able to understand that. So now you do that full cycle, and then you kind of have your first knowledge graph understanding that based on that one question. And you think you only answer one question? I'm sure that with that same work, you're able to go say, oh, wait, there's these other questions I could go answer. And then that's how you did that one unit of work to answer that one question. And then you start realizing I can go reuse that for more and more things. And that's the whole compounding part. And then the next question comes along, and guess what you do? You probably have to just extend a little bit. And then you extend a little bit, and then you can enter a bunch more. And this all starts compounding little by little. And that's kind of the value of semantics, which is all that help to go make AI smarter, but you actually are able to now scale the knowledge in your organization. And you can use that then for building more AI things, for building dashboard, for building applications. And I think that's the true power of semantics,
I love it.
which is not just for AI, is scaling. But I think the issue why we haven't done it before is that the incentives has been very short term, quick. Let's go do this fast. And everything I just described, talking to a bunch of people, I don't want to do that. Taking too much time. But it's always been just technical and social debt. But I think now is the opportunity to actually kind of kill two birds with the same stone, is dealing kind of with this technical social debt and also helping AI.
I love it, and what I love about it the most is, first of all, the MVP approach, right? Just start small and build from there. Don't try to boil the ocean. And the second thing is that, it sounds like before we even talk about technology and tools and platforms and architecture and changes, it sounds like your advice is, can you just write a document that
Yeah.
specifies your definition, what is a customer, but something that everybody agrees to? And that in itself, I think that a lot of people jump into technology before they can even agree on the definitions.
And all of this is what we call knowledge engineering, which is something we've been doing. People have been doing it for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
I call it like it's a lost art. And I think it's coming back now because people have been realizing, I just don't. I need to talk to more people. That's the knowledge engineering part. And one of the things why it was hard before is because it was very manual. You couldn't scale. Well, guess what? LLMs are great at this stuff. So this is actually a way how we can go scale this out. We could easily go off and say, go talk to all these people and figure out what the different definitions of orders and customers are and start putting it together. And what I also tell people is like, and then just give that definition to the LLM, saying, hey, generate an ontology out of that. You know what people don't know? RDF, you don't need to know this stuff because the LLMs have been trained on this stuff for like 20 years. For all the stuff that's been on the web, the standards have been on the web. So with a very simple prompt, you can generate these ontologies, and then later on you can revise that, and that's how you turn it very quickly into machine readable code.
I love it. Okay, so we're about to land. Let's give Denham a call. Do you see those?
So quickly.
Why?
Why just, again, as always, like going back is faster than going.
No, it's because we're having so much fun. That's the reason. Things always go faster when it's when you're having fun. Denham Radio, hello again. Golf Delta Alpha X-Ray Alpha approaching Amersham for rejoin.
Golf Delta Alpha X8, call for this is Denham. It's runway 24, right hand circuit, QNH 1007, report Maple Cross.
24 right hand 1007, report Maple Cross, Golf X-Ray Alpha. Okay. So it's given us the pressure again at the airfield. So we're calibrated. We're going to turn now. Let's just make sure there's nobody coming that way. So we're turning towards Maple Cross, which is that way. It's going to be a big white building. And then we fly over. Do you see those ponds over there? We're just going to fly over them, approaching Denham. You've got London. I can see that you're already taking some pictures, so that's good. And you're probably going to do something crazy right now, right? When we land, you're going to do an introductory flight, maybe.
That's what I hope so.
And try to fly a helicopter yourself. Let's see how it goes. I told you that's the difference between a good day out and a life-changing experience. And I suspect that you're going to have the life-changing experience today. So you see this white building just there in the middle of the field. So that's Maple Cross. So Golf Delta X-Ray Alpha approaching Maple Cross 1000.
Golf X-Ray Alpha, roger. No traffic.
X-Ray Alpha. Got a very clear view of that of London.
Runway 24.
You can see the shard. You see the pointy building. And Golf X-Ray Alpha, final north side cross.
X-Ray Alpha, roger, westerly, 10 knots.
X-Ray Alpha. X-Ray Alpha taxiing back to HQ.
X-Ray Alpha, roger, thank you.
This is cool, right? We can go sideways, we can go forward, we can go backwards.
That's like if you were go like this. special type of man.
Special, right? So how do I learn more?
So there's books, conferences, courses. I have a book, Designing and Building Enterprise Knowledge Graphs. Just ping and I'll just copy the book. Don't buy it. Just I want people to learn this stuff. There's actually other conferences. So I think like here in the UK, there's a Connect London. There is also the Knowledge Graph Conference. And I think people just do good courses. Like shout out to the folks like Tony Seal and Jessica Tallis. That's what I would suggest.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining, and it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And everyone, if you want to learn more, first of all, follow Juan Sequeda on LinkedIn, on YouTube, the No Bullshit Catalog and Cocktails podcast, right? What else? Substack?
I'm starting to do a little bit of Substack, yeah.
Substack, yeah. And also, if you have any thoughts, suggestions on this video, any questions, feel free to comment below. And if you like this content, like and subscribe. It's a lot of work producing this these episodes, so I would appreciate your feedback as well. And thank you. See you next time.
Thank you.
Final words?
I don't know what I just went through.
What just happened? Tell us.
It's my first time I flew a helicopter.